Yes, 2-5 is here. Sports Reports is ordered. Check out Ruining the Game, drop this morning. Look out for me later on. I'm trying to get up in the hot box later. So, lots of stuff coming at you this weekend. But hey, we're going to do this thing that I like to call holding myself accountable because I like to do that. You know what I'm saying? You got to learn from your mistakes, celebrate your victories. So we talked about this during college football season, right? I talked about all the things that I said was going to happen. I talked about my conference winners, my national title winner, all that good stuff. My national title winner is still alive, the Michigan Wolverines. But for the meantime, we're going to talk about the NFL now because obviously Sports Reports is ordered. We came on the record. We made some picks this year. So it goes a little something like this, taking it from the top. In the AFC East, I chose the Buffalo Bills. Here we are, Sunday Night Football, flex style, Buffalo at Miami, winner, AFC East champion. And it's all on the line for Buffalo because if they lose this game, they could find themselves on the outside of the playoffs, even though they are winners of four straight, or five straight. And they are now they have the momentum. Tua's got a banged up shoulder. Xavier Howard's got carted off last week. Chubb is out. So this is here for Buffalo's taking. You don't like to see the injuries, but now that the injuries are present, you got to take care of business because this is still your division rival that is looking to end your season potentially. So you still have to do what you have to do. Now, with that being said, Buffalo made me sweat for this moment, right? I remember the Monday night game, they lost to Denver. I thought it was all over then. 12 middle in the field after Denver missed the field goal. They went out and lost to New England earlier this year. So there was no reason for me to believe in Buffalo after that. But here they are. And I told Mr. Logical, just like I told the world, that if Buffalo went into Arrowhead and got that victory, all bets are off. Because with Buffalo, it comes down to the same thing just about every year. Can they get past Kansas City? If they can get past Kansas City, then the sky's the limit. That's the one team that they should feel just due to past demons, the 13-second playoff game. We all remember that. Josh Allen didn't get to touch the ball in overtime. We changed the overtime rules. Josh Allen hasn't even won a game in overtime since they changed the rule to help him. But Kansas City is the one team within the league that Buffalo looks at and says we can't beat them or this is our nemesis. Kansas City probably doesn't feel the same way. So that's why I felt that if they had lost to Kansas City, they were going to spiral back out of control. But now that they got the win in Kansas City, here we are with a chance to win the division. The AFC South didn't go so well for me. I tried to go out on a limb. I tried to believe in Derrick Henry, and I said that the Tennessee Titans were going to win the South. What I didn't take into consideration was how bad Tennessee's defense is. Now, Jacksonville is in the driver's seat right now. If they beat Tennessee on Sunday, ironically, then they win the South. If not, then the winner of Indianapolis and Houston on tomorrow wins the division. So I don't think anybody really had that going on. Indianapolis and Houston, maybe one or the other if you felt lucky. Maybe if you wanted to just find somebody that had crazy odds and put some money down because you'll win a lot of money, maybe you chose one of them. But I don't know if anybody had both of them in playoff range. So obviously one of the two coaches is going to be a contender for coach of the year. Sean McVay is my coach of the year, but you still have both of these coaches in the coach of the year race. You have John Harbaugh over for what he's doing in Baltimore. You have Mike Shanahan for what he's doing in San Francisco. Like I thought we'll get to that later, but I didn't have San Francisco where they are this season. So there's a lot of coaches out here that could win coach of the year. Mike McDaniel was in that conversation probably until about that game against Baltimore. When Lamar Jackson secured the MVP in my eyes. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. taking it over to the AFC North. I picked the Baltimore Ravens to win the division. I just liked the pickup of Odell Beckham and Zay Flowers as a rookie because I thought the thing that was holding Baltimore back is that Lamar Jackson just never had anyone reliable or a threat to throw the ball to make the defense stay honest, right? So that's why I felt, even though he was coming off of injury, Odell Beckham is still probably the most talented and best receiver that he's had in his career in Baltimore. You add Zay Flowers to that, my little shifty guy, out of Boston College. I wanted him in Washington, even though we didn't even need a receiver. That's just how much I like Zay Flowers. Roquan Smith, we saw what Baltimore's defense turned into the second half of last season. So I felt that would carry over to this year. Now, obviously, I didn't think Joe Burrow was going to have a season injury or anything like that. I just thought that Cincinnati was going to take a step back. I thought that losing Jesse Bates was going to be a big deal for them. I still had them making the playoffs. I just had Baltimore winning the division. And then, of course, me and Mr. Logical went back and forth about Pittsburgh and Cleveland, which one is going to finish where. He picked Cleveland. I picked Pittsburgh. So he got that one right. It looks like Cleveland's in the playoffs. They got the berth clinched already. Pittsburgh still trying to get in. But it all starts. They got to beat Baltimore first. So then, AFC West. Is there another answer besides Kansas City? I don't think so. So I picked Kansas City to win the division. I thought the Chargers would make the playoffs and, they would do a little something and be a thorn in Kansas City's side. But same thing, Justin Herbert got hurt. Brandon Staley got fired, even though they were already probably out of the division race when that happened anyway. Brandon Staley, it all sums it up. I thought me and Mr. Logical both came on here and thought he should have been fired after a win. When he went for that fourth down in Minnesota in week 3, they were both 0-2, trying not to start 0-3. And he went for it on fourth down at his own 25 with about a minute left. Didn't get it. Minnesota throws a pick on the last play of the game because the crowd wouldn't shut up. So he only got out of there because the Minnesota crowd was too excited. So it was about then, even though they won that game, it was about then that we knew the writing was on the wall, right? So then, NFC East, I had the Philadelphia Eagles. There's still a chance for that. It just takes for my Washington Commanders to beat Dallas. So therefore, Dallas is your NFC East champion. Even though we saw this movie last year, that game is the reason Sam Howell was the starting quarterback this year because they beat Dallas and everybody overrated what they thought Sam Howell could be, even though he didn't even have that great of a game against Dallas in that game. They just beat Dallas. So therefore, it was, hey, we got something here, right? So Philadelphia, we thought it was boredom here on Sports Reports is Ordered. We thought Philadelphia just got bored. So therefore, they were just falling out and losing these games because they were just waiting for the playoffs to begin. But then it hit me. It took about 9 weeks, but then it hit me like, hey, they have new coordinators on both sides of the ball. They're the physical coordinators, the head coach in Arizona. Offensive coordinator is the head coach in Indianapolis. So you got 2 new coordinators now, and obviously Philadelphia's offense has taken a step back. Jalen Hurts is out here turning the ball over. So, I still think that Philly can be dangerous come playoff time, not because they're bored or anything, but they're just that talented. So you would like to think that a team like that can turn it on at some point, just like Miami, for example. Miami tends to fade at the end of the seasons, but you still don't want to play Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, Tyreek Hill, Jeff Wilson, Devin Achane, Tua, Cedric Wilson, and then, oh, by the way, you got Big Claypool waiting to get his hands on the ball. So, so Philadelphia has that type of talent. Maybe not the same way speedy-wise, but even more dangerous because A.J. Brown can go across the middle. He can keep possessions alive. He can beat you down the field. Devontae hit you over the top. They got DeAndre Swift, upgrade over Miles Sanders. It just hasn't worked out yet this season, but beware of Philly in the playoffs, right? All right. NFC South. Still got a chance. I picked the Atlanta Falcons to win the NFC South this year. I just thought they were going to have the best defense in the division. I love the Jesse Bates pickup, as you can imagine, given what I said about Cincinnati. I also thought that New Orleans wasn't going to be any good. Derek Carr, I'm just not sold. I thought that Baker Mayfield in Tampa weren't going to be that good. So, hey, they're the surprise. They win on Sunday. They win the NFC South. New Orleans, on the other hand, has won 3 out of their last 4. So if they beat Atlanta, but then Tampa loses to Carolina, then New Orleans is your NFC South champion. So to be continued. In the North, Detroit Lions. A lot of people were still riding the Minnesota train. I just felt that Dan Campbell is the guy for the job. The way they ended last season with the big win in Lambeau, if we can't make the playoffs, they ain't going either. I think that resonates with a team. I think that if they didn't believe in Dan Campbell before, he showed improve. He put the money where his mouth was, right? And they were on the doorstep of the playoff last year. They lost a 3-point game, 45-42 to Seattle last year. That came back to bite them with the tiebreakers, so that's why Green Bay could have won and got in. Green Bay also finds themselves in a win and get in situation on Sunday against their rival, the Chicago Bears. So Chicago Bears, winners of 5 out of the last 7, averaging 145.3 rushing yards a game. Can Green Bay win? I think Green Bay does win, but I picked Detroit to win the division. So there you go. Then you got, the NFC West. Woo! This was one of those moments where I think I was just taking bad drugs. It wasn't even the fact that I was taking drugs and I made a dumb asinine pick. I was just taking bad drugs, because I picked the Seattle Seahawks, Devin Witherspoon to go with Woolen, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I believed in Geno Smith too much, even though I knew that he isn't consistently the quarterback that we saw last year. Last year is the outlier if you look at his career. But I believed in him. I believed in Pete Carroll. I thought that San Francisco would take a slight step back because I didn't know what to expect from Brock Purdy coming off of the injury. Now, obviously, looking at the rosters, we know that San Francisco is the better team. I just felt that it was just going to be a tough contest where Seattle would split with San Francisco and San Francisco would lose some games that they shouldn't, which they did. I mean, they lost 3 in a row at one point this season. They lost to Cleveland. So, and that was before Flacco came and reemerged and resurrected. So here we are. It's week 18. Playoffs are on the line. So the winner of Houston, Indianapolis gets in. If Jacksonville wins, they win the AFC South. Pittsburgh can still get in, with a Jacksonville loss. If Jacksonville and Pittsburgh both win, Buffalo could be out if they lose to Miami. The NFC South, we went over that. Tampa, winning in. They lose, the winner of Atlanta and New Orleans gets in. Green Bay has to beat Chicago to get in. If they don't, then Seattle gets in. And then if Seattle loses, it opens up the door for Minnesota. So there you go. Holding myself accountable. Tell me how your picks went. Who did you pick that was crazy? Who did you pick that was right? Let me know in the comments. Thank you.